Recording in progress. This event, as well as the 4 other Ripple Week sessions this week, are part of WIA's U.S. Grassroots Accelerator for Women Environmental and Climate Leaders. And we're really excited to be offering these sessions to our larger community this year, not just our accelerator cohorts. And this is the first time that we've ever done that. So, so welcome to everybody. Ripple Week is our series of free events meant to inspire and mobilize and amplify critical grassroots solutions poised to really meet this moment on the planet and for our communities. So we hope you'll join us tomorrow as we close out this powerful and inspiring week with our final session. Before I dive in and introduce myself and our very special presenters, some notes about caring for our virtual space today. Here on Zoom, we have things set, so we're going to be muting everyone upon entry. We like to say we're muting with aloha, we're muting with love, just so we can all be present and hear our speakers. If you have a question or comment, please be sure you're using the chat function to let us know, and our team will be monitoring it. Time permitting, we hope to have a Q&A session toward the end of our call that our presenters, they'll either read some questions from the chat at that time, or we'll invite you to unmute yourself so you can ask your questions then. And finally, if you need any technical assistance, please let us know in the chat box, and our tech manager, Kia, will reply to you directly. With that little bit of housekeeping done, my name is Kahea Pacheco, and I'm one of WIA's co-directors. And for those of you who may be new to the WIA community, Women's Earth Alliance is a 16-year global initiative that trains, resources, and catalyzes grassroots women's networks to really protect our environment and to build healthy and safe and just communities now and into the future. Since 2006, we have worked at the intersection of women's rights and the environment, and we do that by creating programming serving grassroots leaders around key environmental themes like climate resilience, water, agriculture, land protection, energy, and even more. And so in partnership with both national and global organizations and networks, we have co-designed capacity building trainings where women leaders access technology, financing, mentorship, and a global alliance. And while we are all here today gathering virtually, and while WIA has a global team located around the world, our home base is located in what is currently known as Berkeley, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, but what is also known as Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. And I want to personally thank our Ohlone relatives for allowing us to call this place home. I also want to acknowledge the lands and waters that I come from, that myself and my ancestors come from, and where I'm currently located, which is the Moku of Puna on the island of Hawaii, and the waters of the Pacific that hold our people together. In both of these places, we recognizes that, you know, these are stolen lands, and we as an organization and as community members have a responsibility to do all that we can to be good guests of this land and its original stewards. And while land acknowledgements are an important first step, we believe they must always be followed up with action. In Huichin, we take action by naming the ongoing and normalized colonization of Indigenous lands, by speaking the original name of the land, by collaborating with local Ohlone leaders like Karina Gold, who is the spokesperson of the Confederated Villages of the Lejeune Ohlone, and who is also a designer and facilitator in the U.S. Grassroots Accelerator, and through our Shumi Land Tax, which supports our colleagues at the Segorite Land Trust as they do the important work of rematriating their lands. And we do this because we envision a future that is not only thriving and sustainable, but one that is just. And so with that, and because it weaves into today's conversation, I'd like to introduce today's presenters. So guiding us today, we have Damiana Calvario, who is a mixed woman of color, daughter, sister, caregiver, community member, and a first-generation immigrant. She was born and raised in Great Tenochtitlan, or what is currently known as Mexico City, to a large family, inheriting the traditions of both her mother's and her father's lineages. Her practice blends together her Mexican roots, mixed upbringing, ancestral food as medicine, kitchen remedies, and Curanderismo studies, indigenous full spectrum doula training, mutual aid, care work, and Western herbalism training. We are also very excited to have Daniela Perez with us today as well. Daniela, as many of you may already know, is the director of WIA's North America and Pacific programs. She joined WIA earlier this year, bringing with her a wealth of wisdom and knowledge in leadership development, food sovereignty, and regenerative agriculture. Daniela grew up in Tijuana, Mexico, and identifies as a trans-border Mexican American. She has a she identifies this as a humble herbal medicine practice based in her love of the land, grounding her craft in place-based medicine, growing and protecting native plants, seeds, and traditional medicines in her small home garden. Today, we join Damiana and Daniela for this hands-on workshop to explore herbalism as a healing tool, to work with our inner waters and to nurture our bodies as we continue our vital work in and for our communities. So in this workshop, you will have the opportunity to learn about WIA's Violence on the Land, Violence in Our Bodies report and toolkit on environmental violence, as well as strategies from herbalism and curanderismo, which is traditional Mexican healing, to work with herbs to move our inner waters. And specifically, Daniela and Damiana will explore water-based herbal extraction methods, herbal themes, and they'll share tools to really support and empower you in your own healing capacities, your own herbal healing capacities, really. So that was a lot of talking up at the top by me, but without further ado, it's my very deep honor and joy to welcome Dami and Daniela to today's session and turn our time over to them. Hello.
Thank you, Gahea, for that beautiful introduction. Welcome, everyone. We are very excited to share this beautiful topic with you, which has brought us together as friends. And it also inspires so much of the work that we do in the world. So if you have any questions today, like Gahea shared, please feel free to type them in the chat. We will keep an eye on that, and hopefully, time permitting, we will have some open questions at the end. And so I'm going to pass it on to Dami to kind of reframe our class together today.
Hi everyone, welcome. So happy to be here. Thank you so much, Gahea. Thank you so much, Daniela, for that beautiful intro to our talk. As Gahea shared, my name is Damiana Calvario. I'm a community herbalist, and I'm also the owner and founder of a little project called La Luneria. I am currently living as a guest in Chumash land, and I'm just so grateful to be here sharing with Dani. Dani is the director of North America and Pacific WIA's programs, and I'm just deeply honored to be sharing with her. She's sharing from Kumeyaay lands, where we actually first met working with land and growing medicine together in a beautiful farm. So yeah, just so much gratitude to be beginning this journey with all of you. If you have any questions, yeah, feel free to put them in the chat, and we can go ahead and begin the little presentation if that's okay. Great. So we just wanted to share some expectations with y'all. This is kind of like a rough agenda. We're going to be sharing from our collective and cultural knowledge on the following topics. So healing with herbs, extraction methods, respiratory themes, and herbal properties. Both Dani and I are very conscious of the fact that these or some of these healing remedies in Curanderismo and the herbalism that we practice our indigenous technology, and that we wouldn't be here sharing without the generosity of our teachers and our elders, our abuelas, who have done so much work to protect this knowledge and pass it on through generations. The main offering today is going to be around respiratory steams, as we talked just a second ago. And our intention is truly that you feel empowered to begin incorporating herbal steams into your personal care, into your community care with ease.
So in order for us to talk about healing with herbs, herbalism or curanderismo practices, we must first become very clear about what we are healing from. And so we must become really clear with our intentions in order to make space for healing. Sometimes when we talk about healing, we skip right over into the healing part, but we don't look at the wounds enough. And it's important to look at the wounds and to look at the shadow work in order to really arrive at this really rich intention to heal. And so I want to acknowledge that we are all healing from many things, and there are many ways to work with herbs in your healing. But today in specific, we will talk about herbalism as a healing tool to the dangerous intersection between environmental violence and gender-based violence. And so in 2016, WIA and the Native Youth Sexual Health Network officially launched Violence on the Land, Violence on Our Bodies, Building an Indigenous Response to Environmental Violence. It's a community-based report and toolkit for action. Everybody who registered for today's call will be getting a follow-up with the link to the full toolkit and report as part of the resources we will share with you. But the purpose of the report was to bear witness to the ways that North American Indigenous women and young people's safety and health are impacted by extractive industries and explore the link between land and body violence. In the report, Vanessa Gray says, "The land is our mother. So when we lose value for the land, people lose value for the women." And Katsi Cook agrees by saying that women are the first environment. This report was very impactful to us, me and Dami, because it exposes the dangerous intersection between gender-based violence and environmental violence in Indigenous community. It is also connected to some of the wisdom in our country, in Mexico. The Zapatista Indigenous women teach us to acknowledge our physical bodies as the first territory we need to protect and defend. It is the first territory of action. So for us, as women of color with mixed ancestry, it is a personal challenge. You know, it's important for us to presence that Indigenous women in frontline communities are disproportionately affected by this ongoing violence. And we both engage in mutual aid efforts to collaborate on healing. We also both identify as survivors. And as such, we have both experienced varying degrees of violence. The consequences of these experiences are felt by our bodies to this day. And so some of the ways this comes up for me in my life is through chronic inflammation. It is through grief, depression, anxiety. It is through autoimmune disorders, night terrors, lack of deep sleep and rest. So there's many ways that my body is currently impacted by the experiences of violence that I've had. So it is through this lens of healing that we engage with herbalism. Not every herbalist will engage through this lens, and in particular today, we're looking at herbs as a way to respond to this ongoing violence, really as a tool to heal alongside our earth. And I just shared really quickly some histories on, potentially traumatic conversations. And some of you all might be activated by this conversation, and your mind might have gone to some traumatic experiences, or some traumatic experiences that a sister of you has shared, or a difficulty that you're healing from related to this ongoing violence. And so I just want to recognize that bringing this up is something very tender. It's something that's tender for my heart, and it's something that is tender, I know, for Damiana's heart and for our team at WIA. So I wanted to take some space for us to do some grounding and just re-arrive into today's call and really call in this energy of healing, that it is possible to heal from violence. It is possible to create beauty from what we have experienced. And so I'm going to ask everybody, if it feels comfortable, to close your eyes for a second and just connect to your breath. However your breath is showing up today, if it is short and fast-paced, if it is really deep and grounded, if it is expansive, if you're struggling with some health and your respiratory system is impacted. So there's no need to change it. There is no need for it to be different. Just take a second to connect with your breath, however is showing up today in your body. Allow your breath to become a vehicle between you, your awareness, and this present moment. Taking a deep inhale and allowing your breath to slowly expand if that feels good. And when we exhale, we invite some moment of release in our bodies. We invite an experience of relaxation, perhaps. And we can call ourselves back into our bodies by calling our names back into the room. You can say to yourself, Daniela, please join me in this moment. If your attention has gone elsewhere, perhaps to the kitchen or to the car or somewhere at work that you were at today, a conversation that was activating, you can call those parts back into your body by naming yourself. You can say, Daniela, come join me in the present moment. I invite you to join me in the present moment. Allowing your breath to slow down. And as you become fully integrated into this moment, you can relax your body and just pay attention to the temperature of your skin, paying attention to the noise around you, the temperature of the air, allowing your feet to get really deeply rooted into the ground below you. Connecting to every inch of your body and allowing it to just be as it is. Allowing for a moment of silence where maybe you can connect with the sound of your own heartbeat. The sound of your inhales and the sound of your exhales. allowing your body to release any stored or stuck energy that may have been activated by today's conversation. And when you feel ready, you can slowly start opening your eyes, joining us back into this virtual network, this virtual call, this alliance building call. Just looking around the room, rejoining us in this present moment. Thank you so much for grounding with me and for allowing me to guide you in this process. I hope that this has helped kind of frame your understanding of today's call, and that will invite your spirit to know that it is possible to heal from this ongoing violence that we are experiencing and that our communities are experiencing. And with that, I'll let Dami take it away with a little bit of framing on our herbalism practices.
Thank you so much, Dani. That was so amazing. I'm like, oh, perfect. Now I arrived. I feel myself. I was a little nervous. I am feeling great. So excited to touch on all of this. Yeah, just thank you so much for that. I needed to call myself back in. Always reeling us, our parts back in. So can we go to the next slide? Maybe one more. Perfect. So we want to talk a little bit about different practices. It's really important for us to tell you something that might be super obvious, or perhaps you've never thought about this, but there are as many herbalism practices as people who practice herbalism in this world. So literally millions, even though we do have both a blood lineage and we have our cultural teachers, we also have our own personal craft. It's great to follow a path, but also you start picking certain things along the way. And Dani and I found ourselves like through our practices. So we're not going to pretend to name each and every one of these practices, but we do want to position ourselves from a lens of what we call relational herbalism. And our intention behind this practice that is relation-based is to practice full circle medicine making, to build community not only with other friends and people who we think are cool because they're doing work with similar plants that we are, but truly caring, first of all, for the land. How do we build relationship with the land where we're living and also where our medicine is growing, right? Or perhaps we are growing our own medicine. So how do we build relationship with that land? Are we building soil? Are you building soil? What seeds are you working with? Are you creating that relationship with seeds? Are you taking a moment to acknowledge them and acknowledge all the generations of ancestors that have been able to live and reproduce in order for us to access a single kernel of corn? Or whatever your own way is. How are we acknowledging, or what are the ways in which we are relating to the minerals around us? With the farmers, of course, the people who grow the plants, are we tending to those relationships and building even friendships, or just the way that we support each other? Are we in right relationship? Are we in reciprocity with them? And truly sitting a second and asking, where does the medicine begin, right? Because for us, this is where the medicine begins. it's so multifaceted, and it's so layered. But the first step in this practice for us is really building these relationships, and then cultivating these relationships. So I don't know, many different ways, but asking the person that you're buying herbs from, like, what is their name, getting involved in the process. We try to always offer better practices for others, like try to buy organic whenever you can, try to buy local whenever you can. Try to grow as much as you can of the herbs that you work with, and also no shame. Sometimes this is not accessible for every single person. So if you need to buy online, if you need to purchase dry herbs, that is perfect as well. There is no hierarchy here. There is nothing vertical about this. So yeah, if you also are in a place of your practice or your life, or if this is the way that you feel comfortable with shopping online and buying dry herbs from others, just have in mind like these two little things whenever it's possible: organic and local, and also like organic practices, right? So we don't want to talk about branding necessarily, or labels necessarily. So why do we want to be creating these relationships? We want to be creating these relationships specifically with plants because we want to acknowledge that they are people as well. Just like we are human people, they are vegetable people. And if we build relationships with them, we can access them in a different way, right? In a kaleidoscope, oh wow, kind of way where they unfold before us. Like, just as a person can be good for something at work, and if you meet me perhaps at a farm, you can think I'm a good medicine grower, but maybe if you meet me with my family, you can think I'm funny. Plants also have so many gifts. And if we take the time to sit with them, to grow them, to tend to them, to offer to them before we ask anything, we also learn a lot about all of these different gifts that they have to offer in this world, just by existing, just by blooming, just by growing. So we invite you to begin your practice from a place of just witnessing each other. So this perspective for us really allows us to resist the colonial perspective of what can I use this for, or what is this good for, which we see so often with herbalism and kind of like the mainstream new agey herbalism. So building relationship is the antidote for us. And we can move to the next one. And today we want to focus on different types of herbal extractions. So herbal extractions is one of the ways we can prepare medicine. We can prepare herbal remedies specifically. So I want to introduce you to this fancy word called menstruum that you're going to hear popping up here and there. And menstruum is just a fancy word for a medium, usually a liquid medium, that allows us to pull out medicinal properties and medicinal constituents from the plants out of their physical body and into this medium. So they act kind of like a solvent. There are many different types of menstruums. We want to just mention a few here. So alcohol-based extractions, you probably have heard of as tinctures. We're going to be focusing on water extractions today, our personal favorite. And water medicine is just so special because of its accessibility. It's accessible to many. It's very easy to work with. It's ancestral to all cultures. And if you think about it, you probably already are being an herbalist and working with water extractions. And this is the first way any person, any human being gets to access medicine, right? Through drinking and eating, through satisfying our first needs. So water extractions are as old as human beings. And which others we want to, well, oil, infused oils. And there are others too, like honey. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of enjoying like a rose infused honey. Is like the best thing ever. Or vinegar based extracts as well. Those ones we call acetones. And then they can get complex and layered as well. So for example, an oxymel is an extraction that blends a honey-based extraction and vinegar extraction, and those together become an oxymel. Yeah, we can move to the next one, please.
So there are many ways to work with these methods, and Western herbalism kind of gives us very specific instructions of how to work with water extractions. And you probably are most common with teas. Teas is a water extraction method for herbal medicine. And Western herbalism tells us to use about 1 teaspoon per cup, and you infuse it in hot water for it can be hot or cold, but for around 10 to 20 minutes. And good plants that you can use for tea are usually aromatic and flowers. Those types of plants tend to be more suitable for teas. But we also have infusions. You use about an ounce of plant matter, which can be very easily measured with just like grabbing a handful of plant matter. And so you infuse that in a quart of water. The difference between an infusion and a tea is usually the time of extraction. They're slightly more potent. They can also be cold or hot, but aromatic plants with infusions tend to be too strong. If you think of, like, for example, a lavender plant, if you infuse it in a large portion of water for a longer period of time, then it's going to be too bitter. It's going to be too strong for you to really consume. And so some of the herbs that are good to work with infusions are nutritive herbs, which are usually kind of known as weeds, a lot of nutritive herbs. And these are, for example, nettles and oat straws are a good example of plants that are available for that type of preparation. And then we have decoctions, and decoctions are when you boil in a slow simmer and you want to kind of reduce that water to half of what you started with. And that creates a really concentrated medicine. And so a good plants to work with decoctions are usually roots and barks and berries. For example, a syrup is an example of a decoction. You can do elderberry or sauco as we know it. You can decoct it, boil it on a slow simmer for around 20 minutes to reduce the water to half. You can add honey or sugar to it. And then if you are using, for example, flowers, you can add those at the very end, but overcooking them will burn the medicine. So that's decoctions, a very rough overview. But we also have baths. That's one of my favorite water extraction methods. And there's so many ways to work with baths. You can do foot, just soaking. You can do hand soaking. You can do a full body bath. People traditionally can mix it with milks or honeys or salts. And it's one of my favorite ways to work with medicine because you can really layer your medicine and your whole body is kind of drinking and being in relation with that plant. And yeah, and so similar to when you're preparing a herbal bath, you can do, for example, a decoction type preparation and then pour it in your bath. That's more for like medicinal baths. But when you're wanting to work with herbs for just the relaxation purposes, let's say, as I give the example of lavender, you can just, make a quick tea with it and then pour the tea right in your bath. It's so fun to add flowers at the very end, so the flowers really release their fragrance in your bath, and through that you can really absorb through your pores that really yummy essential oils that they're releasing. Some other examples of water extraction methods are syrups and elixirs, which I won't go into too much detail about. I don't want to like bombard you with TMI. But for today's class, we are going to be focusing on herbal steams, which is our favorite way. It's really such accessible medicine and really perfect for our seasonal changes right now. So Damia, if you want to take it away with herbal steam.
Let's get into it. So why do we work with herbal steams? I don't know, like one of the main spiritual reasons or like energetic reasons of working with herbal steams is acknowledging the union between elements. So in our tradition, in our Mexica tradition, we have 5 elements. I'll talk about them in a moment. But usually a lot of us recognize 4 of them. So we work with fire and water. We need the fire to warm our water. We work with earth as earth bodies, our earth bodies who are receiving the medicine, and also the earth bodies of the plants that are offering for our healing. And we work with air through our breath. That breath is what connects us in that intimate moment by breathing in and by breathing in the steam and breathing out whatever is not serving us in that moment or during that process. In our Mexica tradition, we also have this 5th element that is literally steam, that is born from the from joining fire and water together. So that is like our main element that we're working with here. So always acknowledge this whenever you're gonna go and prepare a steam, or whenever you're planning for a steam. Just try to acknowledge these 4 elements and in whatever way you want, right? So right now I just gave you like a super easy kind of in your face literal way of seeing the 4 elements with this remedy, but feel free to experiment or to honor them in the way that you want. Everything is welcome. It is your own personal practice. So if you feel like setting an altar and representing the 4 elements in your altar, like opening the space with that for you to do this theme, that is totally okay. That is amazing, actually. I encourage you to. And let's do a little overview, like what are respiratory steams? Like if by now probably you're like, okay, you've given me all of this information, but what is exactly a respiratory steam? We also call them vaporization or steam therapies. There are herbal remedies that allow our respiratory steam system to breathe in the medicinal properties of plants. They're a very gentle way for the aromatic constituents of plants to enter our body in a more localized and focused way. And also the absorption of the medicine is faster through our breath than, for example, drinking it or taking a pill of powdered herbs. So as we said before, we like working with herbal steams because they are very accessible to many, and they're also really important for the season. We, at least here in Chumash, Kumeyaay, what we know as California, now we are like in this fall, winter season. It's still really hot. Like it kind of feels like summer some days. And this season is also full of fires. So we do a lot of herbal steams to also cope with the fires and the air quality that is happening right now. And also in other places, in other communities, it also starts getting really dry. So herbal steams are also amazing for the dryness of that. They're a great way to support our immunity and our immune system in general. And yeah, they're great for the season, but to be honest, I work with herbal steams throughout the whole year. They alleviate dryness in our body too. And if we get sick, they also help us tend to illness. And a really important thing about herbal steams is that they're also tending to our emotions. So for example, in Curanderismo, we learn that sadness is stored in the lungs. So sometimes we use this remedy for emotional reasons. If we're dealing with sadness that gets stuck in our lungs, or that we are not able to process, that we're not able to allow it to flow through our bodies, we also use steams to support our emotional body in this way, because we don't want anything to get stuck in there. Grief, everyone knows that it's the time of grieving. In our tradition also, it's the season to honor our dead and to honor our losses. So we want to make space to, honor what we've lost, who we've lost, but also celebrate that death is part of life. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, just touch real quick on other types of steams. There are many different ways that we can work with steam and herbs at the same time. So we talked about respiratory ones, but we also have facial steam. So whenever we have any like skin condition, or we just want to, pamper our faces and acknowledge our physical beauty, we can also make a facial steam. We also do steams for different parts of the body. So we also have pelvic steams. We know them from Maya region specifically as bajos, and it's a whole ceremony around steaming. And I'm sorry, I'm like, yeah, just thinking about steaming so many different ways. And we also have full body steam ceremonies. So they have, and I wanted to say that pelvic steams, we know them as bajos from our Mayan lands in Mexico and teachings from there, but many different cultures from around the world have their own pelvic steams. We just know them with different names in every culture, of course. And then full body steam ceremony as well. It's not just like a quick remedy. It really has like its own, preparation, and then you go through ceremony and then integration. And we call them in the center part of Mexico, we call them temazcali, but it also can be known maybe in this part as sweat lodge, and that is like a full on body steam with herbs as well.
So today, Dami has prepared a beautiful video for us that will introduce the practice of respiratory steaming, the way that she prepares those. And so I wanted to introduce some of the materials that she will be talking about in that video, which is a deep pot for boiling water with a lid, a stove or a source of fire. You'll need also a clean cotton towel, blanket, or rebozo. And of course, you will need your herbs and also salt. No, there's no need to go get those right now. We don't really think that you'll get to practice it right now in the moment, but it's good to have a list of the materials that you'll need. And hopefully you can replay this video for yourself as you're taking this practice in your home. I also wanted to mention that in the video, Dami refers to some herbs that we have grown ourselves in our gardens and that we have sent to the participants of this year's US Accelerator. So if you've registered for this class and you're like, where are my herbs? Is because we really only sent herbs to participants in the program as part of our investment in their well-being throughout the program. And so I just wanted to mention that those herbs are referenced in the video and that not everybody in today's call is going to receive those herbs, but we'll share ways that you can kind of source your own herbs for this herbal steaming practice. And so with that, we'd like to invite you all to enjoy Dami's video on how to prepare herbal steam.
Hello everyone, Damiana here again. Welcome to my kitchen. We wanted to make a little video for you to demo the process that we've been touching on, going step by step in real life, how those things look like for me in my personal practice, kind of showing you by doing. So first things first, we have to prepare our ingredients. We're just going to use 3 ingredients for this remedy today. Number 1 is water. The water is now boiling here in this pot. With water, it's always important to pray with it, to sit with it for a little bit. If you want to place the water in your altar, you want to place it outside for the night, for it to be serenaded with the moon. Taking that little moment to express gratitude, to bless our water, to pray, to sing, to whisper loving words. Anything that is in your practice is welcome here. And then you're gonna place it in a large enough pot. You're probably gonna use around half a gallon, give or take. You know, you don't have to like measure everything like to the dot, but just one of these pots, probably till here. Place the water inside, put a lid on it, and then I just go and I wait for it to have like a nice rolling boil. Then it's really important for us to turn off the heat. So whenever we approach it in a little bit, it's not gonna be dangerous. We're preventing here. Ingredient number 2 is a beautiful herbal blend that we gifted you with so much love. Dani and I grew these herbs at home and I blended them here. You're gonna receive a little baggie like this if you haven't already. We have both aromatics and also demulcent herbs. Every plant is multifaceted. Let's remember that every plant has a lot of different properties in them. They're people just like we are. Just to use general categories, we can say that in the blend there are demulcent herbs like mullein, and then aromatics like rosemary. The same thing, you know, we bless this here at home. We smoke them with the sahumador, offered some copal smoke for them to serve you in a good way. But if you want to take a moment also and thank the plantitas, thank their medicine, that's great. And the third ingredient is just sea salt, and this is optional. I personally love working with salt, and especially during respiratory steams. Salt really disinfects it all. It's an element that also allows us to be in contact with the waters of the ocean. So there's a nice connection with that as well. So again, take a moment to acknowledge your salt. And then I wanted to show you how I measure. This of course depends on the density of the plants and how crushed you have them. Back in the day, our abuelas probably didn't have like measuring cups. I know my grandma didn't. So if you want to measure with your hands, that's totally okay. We're gonna do a handful of herbs and then 1 cup of sea salt. And again, this is optional, you know, you don't have to. With the sea salt, because of the density, it's not gonna be as accurate. We have kind of like a cup and a third. And you're gonna, as you start practicing these remedies, you're gonna start getting into your own way. We're just kind of demoing how I do it. But if you decide you don't like the salt at all, that is totally okay. Maybe you're gonna need more than 1 handful, more than 1 cup of herbs. That is totally okay. Introduce whatever feels right for you, and always trust your senses. If something doesn't smell well, if something doesn't looks right to you, trust yourself. Don't do it. Next step, pouring the salt and herbs into your pot. And I just like to give it a little stir just to make sure all the herbs are in contact with the water, and I'm helping to dissolve the salt for a little bit. Just a quick, 3 seconds. And again, follow your traditions. Perhaps you go clockwise or counterwise. Now we're gonna let the herbs infuse their medicine into the water. So probably like 5 minutes or so. And again, really important that the fire is not burning. The water is not boiling. It was just boiling a moment ago, but it's not boiling anymore. So it's just really hot water. In the meantime, while I do this, I usually take a moment to tell everyone else that's at home. I need a moment for myself. If my dogs are inside, I take them outside. I set my phone, put it away from here, and just begin this little mundane ritual. Like connect with myself, connect with the parts of my body that are probably not feeling great. In this case, maybe my respiratory system, maybe my lungs, connecting to that cough or anything that's going on in that moment. Or perhaps it's more energetic, perhaps it's some sadness, perhaps I'm grieving something, perhaps I feel something is stalking me and I don't know what it is. So this is a great time to kind of like set intentions, open this little ritual for you. You can call into directions if that's part of your practice. You can make some offerings if you like. I like lighting a little bit of smoke medicine for myself. Saumerios is our word for it, and just allow the scent to like bring me in, like call me in the moment. And then prepare a clean cotton cloth. We use rebosos, which is this beautiful textile that we use for so many different things, but one of them is this remedy. But you can use anything you have, as long as it's clean. A kitchen towel is totally fine, just make sure it's clean. A wrap is totally okay, a blankie, sheets, anything you have at hand. This is a lot about using what is in your house and using the resources that we have, or resources that are really accessible. So this is not me saying go buy a rebozo. Use whatever you have in hand, and also whatever belongs to your lineage, your culture. So let's pretend 5 minutes went by. Be careful always, it's really hot. I mean, right now it's still light because I didn't allow the full 5-ish minutes. By the time you do it, it's gonna be even darker than this. Ooh, look at that steaming pot. With the help of your cotton towel, you're gonna create a little tent over your head. So I'm gonna try to do it sideways, but I would probably just naturally go like this. I would probably like wrap my hair too, to braid it back. But you want to create this little tent. And sometimes I like to hold my head. Sometimes I like to let go and place my hands somewhere else. Maybe above my heart. Maybe heart and womb space. Oh, it smells so good. So place your hands wherever it feels comfortable to you in that moment. And this can change, of course. Sometimes I like to give myself a hug. Sometimes I like to have them open and receive also from my chest. And I like to stay here for about 20 minutes. So sometimes I need to take breaks. It can get overwhelming. So don't feel bad if you need to do that. Please listen to your body. Take off the cloth and just take a little break. Take a few deep breaths. Something amazing about respiratory steams is that they're also facial steams. So you're getting like a really nice facial from the herbs and the salt as well. You're gonna start sweating, or your face is gonna get really wet. Just allow the medicine to enter your body. You know, use this 20 minutes or so, or 10 minutes or so, to call yourself in, to call yourself to be present, to connect with your breath, and really check in and see what do you want to release through that breath, and what do you want to invite inside. What is that you're needing right now, and what is what you need to let go of. And allow the plants and the waters and the salt to support you in that process. They're here to keep company, to hold us during that process. That is basically it. I just wanted to touch on real quick some better practices, some trauma-informed practices. I'm a survivor myself, and at the beginning, after the attack I survived, I wasn't able to cover my face because I got so triggered. So don't worry, if this is you or this is someone in your community that you're tending to, you don't need to use the cotton cloth. You can just skip it completely. So you could totally make a steam this way and just breathe it in. And play with the distance too. Like for some people it might be comfortable being this close, for other people it might be comfortable being like this. You can kind of like redirect the steam maybe with your lid, or you can also just use the cotton cloth to redirect the steam. So maybe you can cover it halfway and just reach in, or maybe you can start playing around with how comfortable you feel with having your head covered. But if you're unsure, don't go all the way, you know, listen to yourself. So make sure that you close your ritual as well. So once you cover the pod, you can thank the pod, you can thank yourself, perhaps hold yourself, perhaps you can wrap yourself with a cloth as well. And don't go outside right away. This is something that I like to do in the evenings or in the mornings where I know I'm gonna have a slow day and I can stay at home. You wanna keep that warmth inside, and you don't wanna put your body to like really temperature changes. So just something to be aware of. Thank yourself, thank the plants, and please enjoy. Please receive with ease and grace from yourself. This is from yourself to yourself.
Okay. Well, sorry, we're going over time for a little bit. If you hang around, we have about like, I don't know, 5 to 10 more minutes to go. Just basically one last slide. So we're now going to introduce which herbal properties are best suited for herbal steams. This can help you start to get an idea of what type of herbs you can use for your herbal steam. Obviously, if you're part of this year's UX Accelerator, you're going to be receiving a little baggie with herbs that you can put into practice immediately. But if you're not, if you're at home and you're trying to wonder, what type of herbs that you can use. This is some categories that we really like to work with in herbal steams. And so Kia, if you can share that slide, I think it's slide number 12. Perfect. So we have two categories, demulcent herbs and aromatic. And so a simple definition for demulcent herbs is it's a mucilaginous or oleaginous preparation that forms a soothing protective film over the mucous membrane. In this case, will be the mucous membrane of our respiratory system. It relieves minor pain and inflammation of that membrane. And many of these herbs, interestingly enough, are also called weeds and are present in many of our rural and urban environments. Some examples of demulcent herbs include mullein, plantain, and mallow, which you can probably find in your local environment. And then another category of herbs is aromatics. And those herbs are the ones that have the strong smelling volatile oils. The oils of these herbs emit a pleasant and distinctive flavor most of the time. This is a great category because many of these herbs are present in our kitchens already. And they contain a high concentration of essential oils. And interestingly enough, many aromatics also include many nervines. And so those are calming herbs. Nervines are calming herbs, which is good if you're working with emotions such as grief or anything that's been stuck in your lungs. Aromatics contain essential oils, and they often are, accompanied with nervine properties. And some examples of aromatic plants that you can work with are anise, hyssop, lemon balm, catnip, and really anything in the mint family, horehound, oregano, thyme, rosemary, lavender. There's so many. This category is very wide. And so these two categories are going to be a great place for you to start to build your respiratory steaming practice. And that's the little last bit of information that we have for you all. So we have some time if you'd like for some questions. We kind of started answering some questions in the chat. But if any of you have any questions that you'd like to stick around for, we're happy to answer one or two. If we can come back to the main room. Thank you, Kia. So we have a question in the chat that says, my midwife came by my home following our home birth and did a pelvic steam to support with healing my womb. So grateful for her wisdom. Oh, that's so good. Not more of a question, but a comment. And we're so glad that you got supported in that way. Do any aromatics pair better than others? I would say follow your nose with that one. If it smells good to you, it's probably going to be a really good combination for you. I personally really like anise hyssop, and I like to combine it with things like rosemary or mugwort that have more of an earthy scent, but that's based on my preference and what I'm like connecting with the plant.
Yeah, I also just wanted to tie everything together and say how we're tending to our inner waters, both physically and energetically. So that mucosa membrane that covers, right now we're focusing and talking specifically about the one in our respiratory system, but that literally covers all of our organs, that goes all the way from our eyes to our genitals and everything in the middle. And also this watery emotional waters that we also have. So Same thing with the aromatics. Again, not aromatic is just one category that we have, but inside that, you're gonna find many other things that intersect. So I love looking for expectorants that are also aromatics. So for example, what grows right out here, like pine and eucalyptus are amazing for me. Do we have something else? Let's see.
So I see that there's some other questions in the chat. So maybe what we'll do is that we can capture these in some way. And then when we do a follow-up email, we'll share the recording and some of the resources. We'll answer those questions just to be respectful of everybody's time and energy to be here. So we will do that. So if you posted any questions in the chat that have not been answered, we will make sure to get those answers to you in the follow-up. So if it's okay, Dami, do you think it's okay we close the call now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted real quick to say our knowledge is more like oral knowledge that has been passed on to us by family members and teachers in a different way. We didn't like learn from a book or took this like in a school setting in that way. So yeah, I saw like a couple of questions on like books, and I'm wondering if you know, but I just like, oh, I never learned in that way. So yeah.
Yeah, there's some books that I've worked with, so I can send that in the resource as well, in the resources for the follow-up email for you all.
Perfect.
All right. So as we wrap things up, there's just a few things I wanted to be sure that we share. Thank you so much for bearing with us these last couple minutes. On the screen, you'll see a slide that has both Damiana and Daniela's contact information if you'd like to get in touch with them directly about their work, about herbalism and healing medicines. But again, all of your questions, we'll be sure to answer them in the follow-up email that you'll be getting with this recording. You'll also see on your screen that our next and final event of this year's Ripple Week will be tomorrow at 4:00 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll be joined by Ruth Miller, who will be guiding us through a conversation about untangling colonization within environmental conservation. So we hope you'll join us for that, and details for registering can be found at women'searthlines.org/RippleWeek22. And then also right here and in the chat and through the QR code you see on the screen, there's a link to a feedback form. We'd love for you to fill this out. It'll help us to continue to improve our events and provide you with as much points of connection with the powerful work that women are doing in our communities around the world. And finally, I wanted to extend my deepest gratitude to both Damiana and Daniela for spending this time with us today, for sharing your work and so much of your wisdom with us, and for all that you do to help heal our communities and the earth. We are so grateful for the knowledge that you hold and protect and share, and for the healing that this session has no doubt supported for a lot of us on this call. So thank you both so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today and for bearing with us as we went a little over. Have a really great rest of your evening.